which is the Speak Truth to Power that she was talking about. And so you have about 10 people you're going to hear from, mostly live, in the course of the next 50-ish minutes. Then we're going to ask Carrie to close our session, and then we're going to do a quick brainstorm, okay? And so we have the bios of the individuals in front of you, and we are going to start. Should we do Joanne real quick?
I can.
May I ask, are you filming this? Can we get a copy of this?
Yes.
Great, thank you.
Now, this is Joanne Bland. We've edited it. It's really just about 2 minutes. It's not very good copy, but she's a wonderful lady. I wanted to include a little bit. She was on the Edmund Pettus Bridge in 1965 with Congressman John Lewis. As a 13-year-old, she was beaten for standing up for the right for African Americans to vote.
Know that I grew up during turbulent times in the 60s when African Americans were fighting for every right that we have today, even though we were citizens. Now, tolerance, when I was growing up, had to be, because otherwise a lot of people would have lost their lives. And we did not being tolerant of the wrong, we are out protesting the wrong. We're realizing that other people are different. And today, when we go, we have so many isms that's pointed out and played upon to make us feel like we're separate. And those things are designed to make us separate. But we also have to be tolerant of other. We have to be tolerant of ideas, the way they change things, the way they process things. Two things that are wrong. I want you to speak out. That you can't tolerate wrong, you always have to tolerate right. And tolerant is one of those words that I really don't like. I really don't like, because it implies that you should take something. That we know something's wrong, but we have to be tolerant of it. And then we don't have to have this. And those discussions are vitally important in any change. When you say, okay, well, I didn't like that, but because I'm different from a different culture, you tolerate it because it's coming from a place that you don't understand. Discussions are needed to make sure we all feel safe and secure, and that we can be ourselves. And that's how change is made for me, John.
Okay, I could tell video quality wasn't great, but she was a part of such a unique part of history that I wanted to make sure that we included her. And here is number 2, our first Holocaust survivor.
Are you answering?
Yes.
Okay.
Marion?
Hello, Mr. Pratt. Yes.
It is so good to hear your voice. You are here with 25 of our greatest minds and Carrie Kennedy.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Pratt, John, for giving me the opportunity to participate in your very, very important workshop. You and I belong to the same club, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Marion, feel free to answer those 2 questions whenever you're ready.
Okay, what are the questions, please?
What is the value of tolerance is your first one.
Okay. Let me begin by stating, do the students know who I am? Yes? My background somewhat?
Yes.
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 Okay. Well, I recently read that the Holocaust is really the greatest single tragedy created by men and recorded by men. I'll answer your questions by just telling you my feelings. Some 80 years ago, 6 million civilian lives were brutally destroyed, only because their looks and their beliefs were objectionable, and among them were 1.5 million children. The population of your wonderful state of Indiana is approximately, I just looked it up, approximately 6,100,000. Can you possibly imagine almost the entire population of Indiana wiped out? And to create a more tolerant world, we must begin with our children. You, the 25 students in the classroom who are participating and who are listening in. We must all, each and every one of us, redouble our efforts to be kind and good and tolerant and compassionate towards one another. That is the basis for peace. This compassion towards one another, regardless of the religious belief and color of skin or national origin, must begin in our homes. And you, the students, must pass it on in your classrooms, in the communities, the towns, the cities. And only if there's respect and tolerance and compassion towards one another in the countries can we expect to have peace in the world. We must begin with you, the students. We must begin with our children. There is so very little that we can do against all that negativity in our world. But how we treat, behave, and reach out towards one another, that is entirely up to us. So this is my message to you, in part. And Kerry Kennedy, I am very honored to be participating alongside of you in this very, very important project that Mr. Pratt, that John has created for his students and for students throughout this country. I hope they're all listening in.
Mary, thank you. This is Kerry Kennedy. We're sitting in the library of this high school in Indiana, and there are about 25 students, and we're all sitting around a circle, and we have a speaker, and your voice is coming out of the speaker. So we're all sitting and listening to you, and we're so grateful to you for joining us today, and also for your witness and for the incredibly beautiful and loving message you have taken away from the horror that you've endured. So we want to thank you for that and sharing with us today.
Well, I am always so grateful that I'm given the opportunity to speak to and with particularly our young people. This is the last generation that will hear these stories firsthand and have their questions answered, and above all, made to understand the lessons learned from that dark period of our history. And these lessons work right in with character education, something we all need, and pertain to today's world situation and definitely our own individual lives. There is so much to be learned. We have to open our hearts and minds to let information in, and that's what's so important. And let me just add one more thing for you, the students, and for all your listening audience. Who else is listening in? Just the 25 and...
There's 25 students and a few scattered adults.
Okay, good. And for the students in particular, I have another important message to please use today's wonderful technology for good only. Do not disparage, intimidate, or embarrass your friends. A very important message for today's world. So, and we just must all, each and every one of us, redouble our efforts to be kind, good, and respectful towards one another. That's my underlying message. And you, the students, you 25 students and beyond, must carry the torch to create a more peaceful world. And with that, I wish each and every one of you a healthy, happy, successful, productive future in a world of love and peace.
Thank you. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your time and your witness. And we appreciate it and hope to talk to you again soon. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Is the next one at 10:15? So do we have 8 minutes? Or they're
Sam Miyahara was supposed to be at 10:10 as of yesterday. John moved him.
We're trying to figure out who's next.
John moved him from
Hannah's
10:40 to
gonna be a
10:10.
writer.
So Sam is.
We're gonna write some things
That's
on
who
the
was trying to
board,
Skype,
kind of like a
and I said we'd be
brainstorming
there in
of
just a
things
minute.
that we can take back from all of each speaker.
So we can reach out
what
to
what are
Sam.
some things that you can throw out at Hannah that she can write on the whiteboard that
some
you
slides
took
that
away
are gonna
from
play on the
Marian
TV as
and
he
talking-
talks.
What did you hear from her? What is one thing that we can take back to the rest of our
Sam
school
still 10:10?
population?
He's reached out a couple times. I told him we'd be in contact
Carry
in a
the
minute.
torch.
Are you ready to greet him?
Ellie,
Use technology for good.
use technology for good. Tell Hannah.
That if like bad things happen to you, don't carry the negative, bring a positive output to it.
Okay, one more and we'll go to our next one.
To use this time to really encourage people in summer jobs.
Are we ready for
This is a great start. We're going, every time we get a minute, this is a great start. Okay? Now we move to Sam Miyahara, who actually has a couple slides to show us. He's a Japanese internment camp survivor. He was here a couple of years ago.
You may need it. I'll do it in a second.
Oh,
Hi, Sam.
how are you?
Good. How are you?
Excellent, excellent.
Uh,
Can you hear me and see me?
Yeah, we can hear and see you just fine.
Oh, okay.
And I have your slides pulled up on a second screen.
Okay.
It's at the very first slide. So when you're ready for me to move to the next one, just next slide, and I'll click the button.
Okay. Well, let me know when I'm ready to start.
Yep. I think John's gonna
Is
say.
Carrie Kennedy in? Hi, John.
She is. Hi, Sam. Say hello to Carrie. Okay?
Yeah. Oh, hello, Carrie.
Hi there.
How are you?
So-
Nice meeting you.
So nice to meet you
Very
too.
much. I'm going to take a nice picture of you. I don't get to do this too often. Anyway.
Pause for photo op.
Let me get your camera. Here we go. Here we go. Nice. Thank you. Oh,
Hi.
nice.
Okay.
And
Okay.
do you see? Can you see all the students?
Yeah.
Everybody
lovely.
wave.
Wave.
You see them?
Oh,
Well, there are
yeah,
about
thank you,
25
thank
of us here.
you. Okay.
Okay, Sam, we got 5 minutes. You're on.
Okay. All right. 5 minutes. Let's go to the first slide. This is a 5-minute version of a normal 1-hour show, which includes a Q&A, but I'll do it in 5 without any problems. Go to the next slide. The problem began a long time ago. Even before the war, World War II, when there was a hate against Japanese and Chinese, Asians in general. But when, after December the 7th, the problem became really bad. We saw these kinds of political cartoons, like this one here, which has an Asian soldier, a Japanese soldier with a bloodied knife, and a Nazi German soldier with his weapon. Encroaching on the U.S. And so the implication is it's the people of Japanese and Nazi German ancestry in this country who are the real problems. As a result, the hate kept building up, and President Roosevelt signed this executive order which specifies that any military commander in the country has the ability to decide who to remove. In other words, the executive order did not mention Japanese or Germans. It simply said the authority is given to the local military. Well, it turns out the general on the East Coast, who had a lot of Germans and Italians, decided not to do that. And way out in the Hawaii, where there were 40% of Hawaii were Japanese, and the general there decided not to do that. But on the western section of the U.S., the General John DeWitt, he hated Japanese. He didn't hate Germans and Italians, he hated Japanese. And as a result, he put out the order that in his district, all the Japanese shall be removed from their homes and taken into remote, desolate camps. And I was sent to a camp in Wyoming. Just before we left, next chart, which is a billboard. This billboard went up a half a block from my house in the middle of San Francisco. And it has the words, "Bye-bye, Japs." I mean, how more insulting can you get by having this kind of a sign right in the heart of a big city in San Francisco? But that's the kind of hate that kept building up during all that time. The next chart shows what happened when the trains then took us to remote locations. Now the military is shoulder to shoulder, getting ready to make sure that we get on the train and stay with us all the way until we got to our remote site in Wyoming. And next slide. And when we got there, this is what the camp looked like. There's Heart Mountain in the background, and on the left side you see all these rows of barracks, tar paper covered barracks. They were quickly built, and 450 of them. And on the right side, you'll see a guard tower and a barbed wire fence. And the guard towers had, when I got there, I saw these guards with weapons. There were 9 of these guard towers. And there were signs along the fence that said, danger, do not cross, or you could risk your life. And that's the definition of a prison. We were captured and we were held there all that time. Next chart. Our family had difficulties in the camp. The camp itself was not comfortable. We had bad food. We had extremely cold temperatures. But we had medical problems in our family. My father went blind because he had glaucoma. And he was being treated in San Francisco before he left by a specialist. And when we got to Heart Mountain, there was no one who knew how to take care of glaucoma. And so he went blind in the camp, and the General DeWitt would not let him go back to San Francisco to see his doctor. And of all inhumane things that the government could have done, they could have at least let him, at least under guard, go see his specialist. But no, he had to stay in the camp, and he went blind, never saw again. The next chart shows the worst case in our family, and that's my grandfather. He died in camp. A very, very sad situation. What happened was he had colon cancer. And again, we had a few doctors. They were, all prisoners. They had to use prisoners as doctors, and they knew very little, if anything, about how to treat cancer. And as a result, grandfather suffered bad. He was. I remember watching him going to Skin and Bones within a matter of a couple of months, and he died. And I looked at his medical records, and the doctors were treating him with a laxative for cancer. So that told me a lot about the inhumanity of not having reasonable quality care to take care of people inside this prison. After we got out, President Reagan saw a picture of a family who was caught inside these prisons. And the family picture included a soldier. He was a Japanese-American soldier who fought for this country. He was sent to Europe after the picture was taken, and he died fighting for this country. And that picture was sent to the White House, and here's Ronald Reagan in the picture signing a bill which had the words apology. That was the one word we were looking for. Very, very difficult. It took 50 years in 1988 when Reagan signed the bill. So we had an awful experience, and what I'm trying to do is pass on the word to those who may not know what happened, that this inhumanity that happens to a large group of people, it could happen again. Perhaps it was almost German, it was almost Italians at one time, but today it might be Middle Easterners or Muslim Americans or others. And I simply say, this is a potential problem. We need to be on our guard to make sure it doesn't happen again. My next slide is a very quick snapshot of the picture at the camp, and that is at an immigrants facility at the border. And recently I've gone to these facilities, and many of them, and it's really an inhumane situation that these immigrants are facing. I don't have time to go into details, but I can tell you in more detail about what I've seen at about 8 of these prison camps for the immigrants. But the last slide is my bottom line, which is never again to anyone. It should never again happen to anyone at all. Thank you very much for your attention. Is that about 5 minutes, John?
You did perfect, Sam. Sam Mahara.
I appreciate that.
Have a great day, Sam.
Okay, thank you. Shall we cut off now? Thank you.
Okay.
There is a movie called North Country, Charlize Theron, okay? This lady is in northern Minnesota. She doesn't talk to many people. Her name is Lois Jensen. She inspired this character. She led the first class action lawsuit for sexual harassment, okay?
It's long distance. I gotta go get the code to call long distance.
Oh, okay. Have any of you seen North Country?
No, but while we're waiting, should we write up?
Let's write more, rapid fire. Yes.
Maybe not that fast. Never again to anyone.
One more?
Are you willing to apologize?
We're ready.
Okay.
It is now necessary to dial the area.
I gotta put a 1 in front of it. This should get us.
Hello.
Lois?
Hello, John. How are you?
It's so good to hear your voice.
Well, it's good to hear yours too. It's been a while.
It has been a while. And you are speaking to my wonderful students and Carrie Kennedy this morning.
Well, hello, everyone. Good morning.
Lois, we talked about the 2 questions. What is the value of tolerance? Followed by what can the next generation do to create a more tolerant society. And each one of our guests are participating for 3 to 5 minutes. They already have your bio, and so I'm going to turn the floor to you.
Oh, my. trying. Oh, start me with something, please. It's so huge.
What is the value of tolerance?
Oh, all right. Well, I've been giving that so much thought, and there's so much going on these days. I think the value of tolerance right now for me is it gives me a chance, patience, to let the story unfold, to get more information, and that way I stay calmer. I'm not jumping to conclusions. I'm hearing many voices, but at the same time I can stay true to what I feel is true for me and my gut instincts, and it keeps me calm. And let's face it, these days I think we need some calm. So, is that helpful?
That's very helpful. Now, can I follow that up with how can the next generation, I got a room full of 16, 17, 18-year-old, how can they help create a world that is more tolerant?
Oh, wow. Listening, paying attention, knowing who you are, and at 71, I'm still learning who I am. So certainly at 15, 16, 17, I know you're all still learning who you are too. But the thing about being, I remember when I was that age, I sort of had a really good idea of who I was and what my strengths were, and certainly what I was going to tolerate for not just myself but others. So it puts a value on things that strengthen you in what you believe. So, speak up when you can, when it's safe. Speak to the right people about issues. If they don't listen, find someone who will listen. It may take a few people. And lead with your heart, I think. That won't get you into trouble, okay? I always put a caution in there. It's always do what you can, but do it safely. If it's not safe to do something or it doesn't feel comfortable, pay attention to that, and then speak up. Speak up gently, or speak up quietly, or just listen. And there's just so much you can do. So you also have to protect yourself, your energy, and somehow separate yourself from what's going on so that you don't lose who you are in whatever's going on around you. From there, I'm not quite sure where we should go.
Lois, I think you have inspired us sufficiently. That was a wonderful message. Thank you so much. Hey, we'll have to do the long version come springtime.
Gosh.
I miss our conversations.
Okay.
Have a great day, Lois.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, next one.
Yeah.
Waiting for
Yes, we got a quick
things.
60 seconds.
What did we hear? Find out who you are.
Pay attention to others.
Stay true to who you are.
If we can get the phones louder, would that be better, or is it okay where it's at?
A little louder would be nice.
I'm going to try to use my cell phone instead and run my cell phone through the speakers.
Anything else for the board?
Lead with your heart.
Okay. Mr. Pratt, are you ready?
Speak up.
279-1233.
Hold on just a second.
Talk to somebody that will listen.
Okay, I haven't hit dial yet.
Okay.
412-27.
Our next guest, did you know there's a new movie coming out with Tom Hanks about Mr. Rogers. Okay? Mr. Rogers was a pillar and inspiration for tolerance. This is Joe Negri, who was the music director on the show. He was Handyman Negri.
That's not. I just wanted to test and make sure we were going to be good. I'm like, okay. I didn't want to dial in and get put in a pinch. 412-279-1233. Okay, ready?
Got it.
Okay. It'll come out this way.
Hello?
Hello, Joe?
Yes.
Hi, this is John Pratt. How are you?
Fine, John. Really, I'm glad you called. I'm glad I'm talking to you. Everything going good?
Everything is going good, and you are speaking on the loudspeaker with our wonderful group of students and with Carrie Kennedy.
Well, hi, everybody. It's really nice to be a part of this wonderful event.
Well, it's an honor to speak to the handyman himself.
Yeah, and it's really nice to be on this program with Carrie Kennedy. Hi, Carrie.
Hey, Joe, so nice to be on with you.
Thank you, dear.
All righty, thank you.
Joe, you remember what we had mentioned, and we have pulled up your email. So we got 3 to 5 minutes here. What is the value of tolerance? What can the next generation do to make this a more tolerant world? From the words of Joe Negri and the inspiration of Fred Rogers. You are on.
Well, you know, I've always been a rather tolerant person, and it's something that has not really ever given me trouble. I'm not, thank God, I'm not a hothead. And maybe it's music. I think music has a tendency to mellow you out and keep you balanced. What I was thinking about telling you all is that intolerance, the opposite of tolerance, leads to division, to breaking up, to splitting up. It leads to arguments and fights and eventually wars. Really nothing good. So my advice would be patience, awareness. I'm very big on awareness. Be aware of what's around you and what's going on. Try to be sure you understand the overall subject. Try to get both sides of the picture. Be aware of selfishness, that that you're not wanting it just your way. You can't always. It can't always be your way or the highway. You've got to work to balance things out with others, and I guess it's tough. Sometimes things just don't go the way you want. Now, John and Carrie, I found, and boys and girls, I found a song that Mr. Rogers wrote, and when he first wrote it, I thought, this is really odd for Fred. But the more I was around it, the better I understood it. It's called What Do You Do? And it goes, what do you do with the mad that you feel? When you feel so mad, you could bite. When the whole wide world seems oh so wrong, and nothing you do seems very right, what do? Do you punch a bag? Do you pound some clay or some dough? Do you round up friends for a game of tag and see how fast you can go? It's great to be able to stop when you plan the thing that's wrong and be able to do something else and think this song. Here's the part I like. I can stop when I want to. I can stop when I wish. I can stop anytime. And what a good feeling to feel like this and know that the feeling is really mine. Know that there's something deep inside of you that helps us become what we can. For a girl can be someday a woman, and a boy can be someday a man. Mr. Fred Rogers. Nice, huh? Thank you very much. He wrote another one, too, that I found. It's called Sometimes People Are Good, and they do just what they should. But the very same people who are good sometimes are the very same people who are bad sometimes. It's funny, but it's true. It's the same, isn't it, for you? Isn't it the same for me? Well, I think boys and girls being tolerant is certainly something that this world needs. Our forefathers, I'm a big devotee of the early Greek civilization and the philosophers of Socrates and people like that, and they seem to have a balance about themselves that somehow is lost in the modern world. They looked for what do you call it? They looked for wisdom, and they looked for truth. So those are things that I think you could always look for, and listen to your friends and try to understand. And before you get into an argument, try to see both sides of the story. I hope I've been some help.
Joe, that was fantastic. Joe Negri.
Thank you all.
Joe, it's been an honor. I hope we can do it again one day.
Yeah, I hope so too. It's a wonderful program, and I wish you the best. And Kerry Kennedy, it's just an honor to be with you. I think many years ago I did meet your father.
Oh.
I met him here in Pittsburgh some time ago, and I never met John, but I did meet Bobby, and liked him very much.
Okay, thank you for sharing. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Have a great day.
You too. All the best. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Okay, we're good. Okay, rapid fire. Rapid fire.
Patience.
Yeah, patience.
Work to balance things out.
Look for wisdom and truth. Try to get the whole story.
Not again.
Anything else?
Look for wisdom and truth.
Be aware.
Our next guest is our second Holocaust survivor. If you're familiar with the movie Schindler's List, it's the iconic film about the Holocaust. Rena is one of the last remaining Schindler Jews.
508-877-1393. Okay, ready?
Yep.
Okay.
Hello.
Rena!
Hi.
Hi, how are you? It's John Pratt.
Hi, I'm fine. Thank you. How are you?
I'm good, and we've got you on the loudspeaker with my wonderful students and Kerry Kennedy.
Oh, well, good morning, everyone. How wonderful.
Good morning.
Rena, we're so fortunate to have you. Each of our guests will speak for 3 to 5 minutes about what is the value of tolerance and what can the next generation do to make this a more tolerant world. And you are on.
All right. Well, I have mixed feeling about tolerance because I have found that the tolerance has not helped people nowadays. I think that what we have to do, we have to have more faith in our students, our children, our grandchildren, because they are the ones that will change the world. They are the ones, they will not stand by while they see that the things are going very badly with the world. And it is very important for me as a Holocaust survivor who survived on Schindler's List, because Oskar Schindler was one person who could not stand by and do nothing. He could not tolerate what he saw, the hate. And I think that our young people now are smart enough to realize the difference. I have great hope that our future generation will realize that they have the power to make a difference, that they will not stand by and do nothing when they see injustice done. Because I feel that it doesn't matter whether you are white or black or yellow or green. It is as John F. Kennedy had said years ago, when you cut, whatever color of skin, when you cut your finger, the blood is red. And I think that it doesn't matter to me, and it hopefully will not matter to future generation, whether you are Jewish or Muslim or Catholic or Protestant or whatever, or if you don't believe in God anyway. Because I think that the gods are not happy to see what's happening nowadays, how people hate each other. And the world is standing by again and doing nothing. For a survivor like myself, who I feel right now that 1936 is back again. Because when Hitler came to power and he started the killing of the Jews, the world stood by and said nothing. Everybody was silent. The judges, the doctors, the police, the whole world was silent and allowed this horrible this murder of innocent people. And I can see it's happening now. I mean, to celebrate, to take children away from the parents and put them in some barracks again with no help. How can we stand by and not do something about it? We have to speak up. Our children, your students, are going to be able probably in a couple of years to vote. Maybe some of them will be able to vote. I think voting is very important. And I think that they have to realize that they have the power to make the changes and make things, and make it as a world that people can live in peace and harmony. You don't have to love everyone, but that doesn't mean that you have to hate. And people who hate are so consumed with hate. Some of them don't know how to read and write. I mean, now in the Arab countries, little boys are taught how to shoot. They're not taught how to read and write. And every one of our future generation has the power. I mean, I tell my students that a bully is a coward, because a bully will never attack somebody who is bigger, only somebody who is younger. Well, don't just stand by because you feel you can't do anything. Go get help. Go get help. You can do it. You can change it. I feel that the survivors of the Holocaust, and there are very few of us left, and so are the GIs, who in the beginning didn't want to speak, and unfortunately there is also very few of them left. They also wanted to change the world. And this is what I hope for the future generation. I am convinced that they will not be a bystander, that they will all be upstanders. They will not stand by and see injustice done. They will speak up. We don't. There is no room for hate in this world anymore. We've seen too much of it. We had tolerated too much and didn't pay attention. Now is the time to stand up and be brave and don't be afraid and speak up.
Those are magical words. Rena, thank you so much for joining us.
Very welcome, and I wish you all good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Rapid fire.
Bye.
Don't live in fear and be brave.
The young generation has the power to make a difference.
Don't live in fear.
Already have that ready?
Don't judge people.
Don't be a bystander.
02, 18, 02, BE2.
You don't have to love everyone, but that doesn't
1C. Ready?
Even one person
Oh, we want video.
Susan Bro.
Hi, how is everyone?
Hello.
Susan, are you there?
I'm here. Can you see me?
We have audio, not video yet.
Oh dear. I even put on lipstick. Come on, guys, you gotta see me.
There should be a video button at the bottom of your screen, and it may have a line through it right now. You might.
Oh, it does. Yep. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Susan, say hello to my students and Carrie Kennedy out here.
How are you guys? Good. How many people am I talking to this morning?
About 30.
Okay.
Yeah, and we have had a wonderful session. You're bringing up our thrilling conclusion. What is the value of tolerance, and what can the next generation do to make us a more tolerant world? You're up.
All right. So let me find something to prop this thing on because it's jumping all over the place. I'm trying to hold it in midair. Here we go. So tolerance is necessary in order to live with other people. I mean, you can't have a roommate even unless you can tolerate some things. No two people are alike. We're all going to approach things differently. So we have to have a level of tolerance in order to have a society, period. Particularly as population grows, this is going to become even more important. What you can do personally depends on your talents and abilities. Each of us has a different set of talents and abilities. Some of you are gifted in music, some of you have abilities in writing, some of you are speakers. I was born talking. I'm a born talker. That's just what I do. I was a teacher for many years. And so as you look at your careers, I want you to also think in terms of social justice. How can I use the talents and abilities that I have for social justice, for positive change? When we encourage and teach tolerance to others, we use our gifts and abilities. So if you're a playwright, then you can write a play about justice or how people stand up for one another. If you're a singer, maybe you write a song or make a rap about social justice. If your ability is to hostess events, there are people who are natural born party planners, then maybe you have small group events where people can sit around and get to know one another, because sometimes people are afraid of people they've never met before. The point is, if you are looking to make a difference in the world, you need to think in terms of what your gifts and talents and abilities are. And then you can make use of those in order to make the world a better place. Any thoughts on that?
Yes.
Any questions? Come on, people. This is not just listening, this is interactive.
Quick question.
Well, maybe you could share. This is Carrie Kennedy. Hi there.
Hi.
Maybe you could share a little bit of your story and how you gained these insights and that wisdom.
Okay. So as a teacher, I taught elementary school. One of my tasks was to recognize the differences in my students and then make those differences work in a way that optimize that child's learning. So that became a habit for me, to look for people's differences, see what their style of learning, their style of communication was, and then encourage that strength in them. Some of you learn better by touching and hands-on. Some of you learn better by watching videos or observing and taking notes. Some of you learn better by reading, and then you have it, to run through limitless times. But each of you has a unique style. And in the same way, as I've begun working in social justice work, I've noticed that a person's individual learning style greatly affects how they are able to develop their tolerance for others and to teach tolerance to others and to share tolerance with others. I just find that if you try to do something that's not in your wheelhouse and it doesn't work, it may be because that's just not your style. You just have to figure out what your style is, what your strength is. But don't be afraid to try new things. It's not saying that you can't do things that's outside of your familiar experience. I'm just saying figure out what your strongest aspects are. And that may take a little experimentation, frankly. It may be just that you're the person who speaks up when somebody is doing something inappropriate to another individual, and you say, hey, that's not cool, man. We don't need to talk like that. You'll just have to figure it out for yourself. But if you're of that mindset, it'll make a difference, trust me. I often liken what I do to throwing a pebble out into the water, and so I'm making little ripples. But I'm also encouraging each of you to throw out your pebbles in the direction of making positive social change. And as we all continue to make these ripples, ripples accumulate to make a wave. We're going to get a wave of change as we all work in the same direction. But what I do is not what you do, and, vice versa.
Susan, that is exactly the words we wanted to hear, and we want to thank you for sharing this time with us. Susan Bro. Susan,
thank you so much.
It was great to talk with you again.
Good to see you, Mr. Pratt.
Okay, have a great day.
All right, you too. Bye-bye. Bye, guys.
Yeah, so, well, let's hear what she said.
No two people are alike.
Use your talents to spread positivity.
Make sure you try to diversify your lifestyle so you can learn new things and try new things.
throw out your pebble.
Small ripples in that Starkville wave of change.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we have a few minutes. I'm going to answer that question. What do I think is the value of tolerance? I'm against tolerance. I think tolerance is the enemy. And I think that tolerance, how does it feel when someone says, I'm going to tolerate you? Like, nobody wants to be tolerated. Everybody wants to be celebrated, and we all deserve to be celebrated. That's number one. Number two, do we want to tolerate injustice? No. When we see racism, when we see classism, when we see people on the border who are imprisoned and tortured by U.S. immigration officials, is that something to tolerate? No. So I'm against tolerance. I'm for understanding. And I think that we can each make a difference. So that's my quick message. Now let's just go through this. This wisdom we heard from all these incredible heroes this morning. Carry a torch. Use technology for good. When things that are bad happens, don't carry the negative around with you. Make it positive. Use time to carry positivity. Never again should this type of thing happen. If we never want it to happen again, we're going to have to stop it when we see it today. Be willing to apologize. Take responsibility for your actions. Very important. Learn to stay true to who you are. Lead with your heart. Speak up. Talk to someone who will listen. Be patient. Not too patient, but a little patience is good. Both sides. Listen to both sides and see the whole story. Look for wisdom and truth. Be aware. The young people have the power to make a difference. Don't live in fear. Don't judge people. Don't be a bystander. Be an upstander. You don't have to love, but don't hate. Even one person can make a difference. No two people are alike. Use your talents to spread positivity. Use your life to try new things. Throw out your pebble. Small ripples of hope. Ripples can spark a wave of change. Now, I'm going to just end with this last two thoughts of what she said. My dad went to South Africa in 1966 when most Americans had never heard of apartheid. And he spoke to a college at the University of Cape Town. And in that speech, he talked about the capacity of one person to make a difference and how all working together we can change the society. And this is what he said, which is so amazing that she said this. He said, each time a person stands up against injustice or strikes out against injustice, they send forth a tiny ripple of hope. And crossing each other from a million different centers of energy and daring, those ripples create a tidal wave that can that can break down the mightiest walls of oppression and resistance. And so I think that that's how I would leave you today. That we're not asked to change history. We're just asked to do what we can. Use the gifts God gave us to create change, to be kind to one another, to make whatever institution, whatever community we're living in a little bit kinder, a little bit more gentle, a little bit more just. And those are the ripples that we're going to throw out. And then all of those all together will create the history of your generation as it has in the generations before. I hope your generation does a better job. Thank you so much. Thanks for listening.
Karen, can I ask a favor? Can we close, would you mind a final quote? Okay?
Sure.
Aeschylus, okay?
Okay, which one?
Make gentle.
Oh, so when my dad also spoke in Indianapolis, he called everyone to tame the savageness of man and make gentle the life of the world. And that's really what we're all called to do. Thank you. I also have a little present for you guys.
Oh!
These are, the name of our human rights education program is Speak Truth to Power. So I'd love to give everybody a Speak Truth to Power bracelet. There's also black and red. Thank you. You're out over there. You are definitely blue and white today.
Great big round of applause.
I'm so glad to be with all of you, and I look forward. I hope you'll let us know what you guys do, like in the rest of this school year, to make a difference. One second, there's more. You know, and what you take away from this day, and I'd love to hear if it changes your behavior, if you think about it in the next few weeks, if you think about it in a time when you're having a challenging day. Oh, thank you. And what do you do with that? Thanks. Would that be possible? Could you maybe
Yes,
share
I
that?
would love to. I would love to.
I'd love that. You
Okay.
take some of this.
Oh, I would love
Would
it.
you prefer?
Oh, it's surprising.
I see. Well, with that outfit, you could go either way.
I think I'll go blue, thank you.
And can we do a quick
we'll go-
group picture
Yeah,
before
let's
we
do
go?
that.
Okay?
Yeah.